Polly, oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Hi, this is James White from Red List News, and I'm joined by my good friend Mike Adams from naturalnews.com. A couple of weeks ago, Mike ran a story about China's covert war with America. We had Mike on the broadcast. We covered his story on our broadcast, and then I did an interview with Mike afterwards. That was just about 2 weeks ago, and some things have developed in the last 2 weeks. So I wanted to have Mike Adams again on today to talk about any developments that he knows about. Of course, he has inside sources right there on the ground. And without further delay, Mike Adams from Natural News, thanks for joining us here on Red List News today.
Hi there, James. Thanks for having me back on. It's great to join you today.
Well, Mike, it's always an honor. You know, you do such fine work over there, and your whole school of writers that you have over there, your whole stable, I should say, of writers you have over there, do such a great job. You really do. And let's talk before we go about your new project you have coming up with all the .us stuff. But let's get down to brass tacks here. You reported this story, you followed up with it, and now you're reporting that China has cruise missiles that render U.S. carriers obsolete. Mike Adams, give us an update on everything that's going on over there in the East.
Sure, and just as background, this information does not come from our mainland Chinese sources. We actually haven't heard from them since the Tianjin explosion situation. So this is all sort of mainstream news that's out there, and I'm getting a little concerned about our sources actually, but. Such a police state, and they arrested 15,000 people across China for so-called internet crimes. So we're hoping to make contact with those folks again soon. Anyway, China has unveiled a cruise missile that flies at Mach 10. It goes into low Earth orbit, and it can destroy United States aircraft carriers. It's called the Carrier Killer missile. And it was just unveiled officially by China in its 70th celebration of the World War II victory over Japan. Now, this is all convoluted, so I want to ask your audience to listen carefully and closely. There's so many things happening here. Japan committed, of course, these heinous war crimes against the Chinese people in World War II. China never forgets. They do not forget. And the government has been running a very aggressive propaganda campaign demonizing Japanese culture, the Japanese nation, and even outlawing the use of Japanese words on signage. For example, if you go around Beijing today, you will not see Japanese words anywhere, and people who would try to use them would be shunned or possibly intimidated or arrested. They've got secret police now running around in Beijing, people wearing armbands, kind of like the Nazis used to do. And the armband is it's a signifier that you are part of the Beijing tattler network, sort of the secret police, tattle on your neighbor. And they have very tight control over the city. Now, we have seen more explosions. So the Tianjin explosion, was the first explosion that our sources told us they believed was the U.S. Pentagon striking as a form of industrial sabotage in China. After the Tianjin explosion, there was another second explosion, I believe, in a different province in China. Then there was the sabotage of the U.S. military ammo depot in Tokyo. And again, Tokyo is one of the enemies of China today. Japan is, according to the Chinese government. And then now we've had a second explosion in that same province of Shandong, which is hardly being reported anywhere. So we now have a series of 4 explosions, 3 of them in China, 1 in Japan, and that one targeting a U.S. ammo depot. At the same time this is going on, we've got Chinese hacking the U.S. military computers. We've got cyber warfare underway, sabotage and probing attacks on U.S. infrastructure, including water treatment plants and water pumps, nuclear facilities, and so on. We've got Obama warning China to pull back its spies that are operating in the United States. And now we have warships, Chinese warships that have been spotted near the coast of Alaska. So, James, the big picture here is that things are heating up. This is also a Shemitah anniversary. This is the 70th anniversary of World War II. So that's 7 times, Shemitah is a 7-year cycle. It's 10 Shemitahs, plus it's landing on what would normally be considered a Shemitah year, which is 2015. Just like 2008, we had the crash of 2001, the dot-com crash, and so on. So there is a lot going on here, James.
Indeed, there is, Mike. And last time we talked on the phone, on air here on Skype, I asked you about the nuclear, the nuclear end game, perhaps, and you said that you don't feel it's going to be going that route anytime soon. Do you still feel that right now they're going to do a lot of different things, like the cyber attacks, perhaps even some of these satellite? Looks like these satellite attacks are going to probably ramp up. Is that type of stuff going to continue back and forth before they go nuclear, or do you think that's not even it's not inevitable that we have to go nuclear?
I'm sticking with my original analysis. I don't think this is going to go nuclear with China. Now, Russia might be a different story, but with China, it's more of an economic war. China does not want to destroy the U.S. infrastructure. It wants to capture it, in essence. It wants to be able to control it. It does want to destroy the U.S. currency. There is a currency war going on, but China benefits the most if it maintains the United States as a consumption society trapped in a spiral of debt. If they destroy the United States infrastructure and population and cities, then there aren't people to still consume products, which is the backbone of the Chinese industrial economy. So I see this as not going nuclear with China. Now, again, Russia may be an entirely different situation. I think people like Steve Quayle are more experts on the Russia side of things.
Well, Mike, you see where China has come in and bought large swaths of land. I think even some communities right here in the United States. So aren't they essentially taking sort of our dollars and capturing us that way? Aren't they?
Yes, it's true.
Go ahead. Please comment on that.
No, you're right. They're using the trade disparity, the trade surplus that favors them to purchase our land and perhaps more and more buildings and cities and so on. But that in essence is the silver lining to that. I mean, no one wants a foreign nation to come in and take over all their land and property, but the silver lining is they're less likely to bomb America because they don't want to destroy their investments. So,
Exactly.
This is something to keep in mind.
Mike, here we are. Last question. We're coming down here. Of course, you just sort of touched on a lot of these things. This is September 4th. We're about a week or 10 days away from when, some apparent fireworks are supposed to start happening. Now, I don't know if we touched on this before, but of all the things that are going on, this may seem odd, but the Pope coming and visiting the way that he is, the time that he is, that to me sends up a red flag more than anything else. Am I crazy on that? I mean, are you feeling some of the same vibes on that, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're right that a lot of events are coalescing here in the same small time frame window, but we have to be careful. There may not be any visual fireworks. There may not be obvious things happening on, I think September 23rd is one of the big days being talked about right now, but there might be huge changes that take place under the table that we don't even know about until a few months or even a few years later. So probably we're not going to have, a giant nuclear attack on September 23rd, but there may be, again, decisions made. There may be pronouncements made among people like Obama and the Pope. There may be an agreement, perhaps behind closed curtains, that the world is now going to destroy Christianity, for example. And the Pope, who is, many people believe this Pope is actually the Antichrist. I'm not saying that I believe that. I just don't know enough about it. But some people do. And maybe this Pope, his job is to lead the destruction of the entire religion. Who knows? Look, the world is so crazy these days. And everything is being attacked at every level. Freedom, liberty, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, just your ability to collect rainwater or grow your own food. All of these things are being attacked at every level. So at this point, James, nothing surprises me. I mean, this UN 2030 agenda that's just been announced is all about enslaving humanity and calling it sustainability. So they have a plan, they have a blueprint, they've announced it, And it does involve the complete enslavement of the human race, period.
Well, Mike, last thing, there's few people out there that do as much as you do, my friend, and I really truly mean that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your Good Gopher, about your Fetch News? We know about Natural News, of course, one of the top websites really in the United States and certainly in health, probably the top. Tell us a little bit about the projects you have there with Good Gopher, great search engine. We try to promote it when we can, and your Fetch News, if you can, please.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you. And goodgopher.com is the independent media search engine. So it's the alternative to Google. And we have an alternative to Google News, which is called fetch.news. If you go to fetch.news, it links to over 100 different sites, each one bringing you real-time, updated hourly, aggregated news from across the independent media on your favorite topics. For example, we have Trump.news for the real-time breaking news on Donald Trump. We have Fluoride.news. We just launched a magazine site today, GMO.news. And we've got Clinton.news for those who want to watch Hillary Clinton, crash and burn and self-destruct. We're going to be, covering it there on Clinton.news. So almost any topic that you are interested in, you can find it right there on Fetch.news. So check that out. It's all real-time updated.
Well, Mike, we always appreciate you so much coming on the air with us, and we enjoy your fine work. And you can follow Mike's work at naturalnews.com, and please follow Dave Hodges and I as we do our daily Red List News on redlistnews.com. And I think that's about it, Mike. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
Well, yeah, I just want to say that with all this talk about September 23rd, I just want to caution people: don't necessarily think that you're going to wake up and a city has been nuked or something. Sometimes big events don't happen in ways that are suddenly obvious, but there may be big things happening behind the scenes. So keep that in mind. I mean, I'm not one of the people who's publicly predicting any huge thing to happen on that day, but I also know that so many events are coalescing around that time that things are changing rapidly. So keep that in mind. Get prepared. Even if nothing happens on that day, don't abandon your preparedness plans, because things are headed for a global collapse and you need to be prepared, period.
Wise words from the Health Ranger, Mike Adams. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Red List News. This has been James White. Bye now.
Oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.